I know this story because I was there and lived it. And when I tell it, it happens again. My ships were bottlenecked. They couldn't back up or turn around. They were trapped. And the Lastrygonians hurled massive boulders from the cliffs, smashing the boats, spearing the drowning men, hauling them up to the bow. I watched with horror the destruction of my men and ships. I had tied at the entrance to the harbor. It was my caution to be wary of unknown people. The Lastrygonians saw me. They ran along the cliffs on either side of the harbor, tearing up massive boulders to throw upon us. Splinters of rock fell upon my ship. I cut the hawser, and we dashed our oars through the wine-dark sea. We beat the waters wildly to save our lives. I lost 11 ships and their crew. Only the men in my ship escaped the terrible death by the man-eating Lastrygonians. Our sails caught the winds. For several days, we drifted peacefully with no land in sight, until we drew toward shore and found a natural harbor. 2 days and nights, we huddled on the sands beside the hollow ship, grieving the loss of our companions, not knowing if we were alive or dead ourselves. On the third day, when dawn stretched her rosy fingers over the horizon, I woke my companions with my decision to scout the land, find out where we were, whether upon an island or a mainland coast. I left the beach and I cut into the forest. After wandering, I ascended a cliff from where the landscape was in plain view. We were on an island. It was low and flat, waves rolling upon the coast, no land in sight. Which way was east? Which way was west? Where would the sun come? Where go down? I turned to descend, and I saw smoke curling through the trees in the center of the island. My impulse was to follow, but it seemed better to feed my men first. They had not eaten since that grisly day we escaped death from the giant Lastrygonians. I came down from the cliff, and a god must have heard my prayer to feed the men. For a great stag, crowned with curving antlers, crashed from a thicket across my path, driven by the heat to quench his thirst at a nearby stream. I raised the spear I carried as a walking stick and swiftly hurled it, striking the beast deep along the spine. The animal screamed. And his life flooded from his nostrils. I planted withes and vines into a rope, tied his legs, and I slung him over my back, holding the rope with one hand, leaning upon the spear with the other. There was no other way to carry it. I dropped him on the sand beside the hollow ships and comforted my companions. Desperate men, moaning, huddled in their cloaks, bereft of hope. Look what Zeus has provided! For the gods have not forgotten us. As long as there's meat to eat, we shall not perish and gibber among the dead. They were amazed at the size of the animal. It was as large a stag as we'd ever seen. It was broader and heavier, and it would satisfy a groaning in our belly. We washed our hands in the sacred ocean, cut away the thigh bones, wrapped in fat, burnt as an offering to the gods, then prepared our meal. Rejoicing, death had been cheated and would not see us yet. The sacred night descended, and we slept on the sands beside the hollow ship. When dawn stretched her rosy fingers over the horizon, I awoke my companions and I told them, I do not know where we are. The sea rolls around us with no land in sight, only endless ocean. I saw smoke curling through the trees, so we're not alone. I propose to divide the men, and he who's chosen by lot will lead his crew into the wilderness. They were startled, alarmed. They trusted me to devise a skillful plan, but at the thought of being separated, they cursed. They threw themselves upon the sand, they rolled and wept, remembering the death by the dreadful Lastrygonians. But it had to be done. I divided them into 2 groups, 22 in each. I chose Eurylochus, kinsman in my own family through marriage, as captain of one, and I the other. We placed our names in a bronze helmet and shook it. Eurylochus' name sprung out. His men groaned, they moaned, they clasped their companions, they dreaded they would never see them again. They struck off into the wilderness, and they came upon a house of polished stones in a grove of willow trees. Lolling upon the ground were wolves and mountain lions, rolling on their backs, pawing each other. They sprung upon my men, nuzzling them, licking their hands, nipping at their legs, as hounds or puppies greet the master when he's left the table with bits of food in his pocket. They had been drugged by the goddess who lived in the house, the goddess Circe. Wild, untamed beasts of nature she domesticated through enchantment. They heard the clatter of a loom as a shuttle sped back and forth, and she, dreadful goddess, daughter of the sun, said, singing, weaving, singing. Great Zeus, what was she singing? My men, they attempted to move back, the animals ringed them, and they could not get away. Her song floated from an open window.
Center fabric of destiny.
The men were terrified. Eurylochus drew his sword, but he ran to the end of the line behind the men. Politus, oh, the bravest of the companions, he spoke up. What is our choice? Odysseus sent us. We either run back to the ship or we enter the house. Whether it's a mortal woman or goddess who sings, she thrills the air. He called, and a hawk flew from a tree beside the house, wheeled overhead, crying in circles. The polished doors opened. She stood in the doorway and looked at them. Looked at each one as if she knew them by name and could call them. They were agitated to show off, as they did when they were boys coming home from the gymnasium. Boys impelled to box and cuff each other. They were the adventurous plunderers who savaged the coasts, sacking towns too weak to resist them from driving off the herds, carrying away women. Proud of the fear they inspired. Young heroes, they sauntered into her house, flung themselves upon a seat, and pounded the table for the drink they deserved.
Young men, wanderers of the sea, you have come to my house to flatter me. You bring your boyish ways, those rowdy childhood days. Did you know that Circe keeps a pen for vigorous, demanding phallic men?
She counted each one of them as they fought over a seat. She sang in that haunting voice that could draw you away.
Circe cannot refuse our guest. Run to my island, you had a request. You came for something, what could that be? Circe has only one request. Of the virile among you, who is the
They
best?
laughed, pointing at each other, embarrassed to admit they wanted that claim for themselves. She prepared them cups of cheese, barley, honey, cranny wine, stirring in her drugs, softly singing. They greedily drank, and when they were finished, they pounded the table for more. She struck them with a wand she held. Bristles sprouted from their nostrils. They felt on their knees, transformed into pigs. Yet their mind was unchanged. They knew what they were. They wept.
You cannot lie to Circe, chastiser of souls. You told me you were men, but you're pigs in the heart, pigs in the soul. This is the better body to play your role. Pig within, be pig without. Bristles protruding from from the snout, grunt and wallow in mud and mire. The pig pen you desire.
She opened the back door of her house and she sent them out into the pig pen. Locked them up, tossing acorns and cornmeal nuts for their supper.
Out of one body into another. Seasons change, the soul goes round. Where is your fertility found? Nurse away, nurse away, nurse away, men. Feed on acorns and nuts in Circe's pen. You found your manhood in the sty, grunt and wallow, cry, cry, cry.
She went back into her house. She sat at the loom, passing the shuttle back and forth. As she sang,
life is stretched out. It is fabric on the loom. Circe sits in a sunlit room, weaving a destiny in the center of an island, in the center of the sea.
Eurylochus fled to the ship, waving his arms about and screaming. No one could make any sense of what he said. Finally, he quieted enough to blubber what he'd seen. I sheathed my sword along my thigh. I commanded him to take me to her house. He begged not to go. We must leave before something dreadful comes over all of us. Eurylochus, these are your companions from the great war at Troy and from wandering the ocean. There is no honor for you to leave them. Why did you let them enter the house at once? I couldn't stop them. Why, they threw me aside. I knew him too well to accept that. Or did you run aside before they could throw you? I cannot leave and abandon my men. You wish to stay, eat, and drink beside the hollow ship. I had not gone far when I met a young man ambling through the trees coming towards me. He was fair, handsome, with a beard just coming on, like a young prince. It was Hermes, messenger of the gods and companion of wanderers. What luck! They say he's the father of my grandfather, always knows what to say, no matter how deceitful. And everything I know about playing tricks on people with words, I inherited from him. He called my name. Odysseus, where are you going? To Circe's house. Do you know what she did to your men? She turned them into pigs. Their favorite. She'll do the same to you. Unless, of course, you listen to me. I can save you, yeah. She'll prepare you a posset. Honey, cheese, barley, Pravian wine, and a drug. Don't worry, you can drink it. I've an herb for you one which only the gods know. We call it moly. I'll give it to you. Now listen. She's a great goddess. Daughter of the sun. Her power is awesome. Her presence will overwhelm you. Take away your courage. Diminish the valor in your heart. Do not fear it. She yearns for an equal in skill and cunning. After you drink, she'll tap you with her wand. Nothing will happen. Rush at her with your sword as if to run her through. Your sword will tell her you're not to be deceived. You're no fool, but to be reckoned with. She'll honor your desire to confront her. She'll fall to her knees and clasp your feet and beg you to enter her great bed. She wants a lover. Then to swear the great oath that when you're naked in the bed, she'll not overwhelm you, not work a charm over you, but embrace you with trust and love. You'll see. It'll all fall out as I tell you. He plucked from the ground an herb which was not there before. Only the gods know where such things grow. He gave it to me with laughter, and it blossomed in his hand. It had a black stem, white petals. I wished to thank him, but he had already ascended through the trees to Olympus and the home of the carefree gods. I ate the herb. How quickly the gift from a god takes effect. Everything about me seemed here, but not here. I entered the grove of Circe's house. The wolves and the mountain lions, they sprung upon me, nuzzling my arms and legs. She sat at the loom, passing the shuttle back and forth, singing, weaving the pattern into the fabric.
In the center of an island, in the center of the sea, drawn by the power of destiny.
I called, and a hawk flew from a tree beside the house and wheeled overhead, flying in circles. The polished doors opened. She stood in the doorway. Her head seemed to touch the roof beam. The room was filled with light. A memory arose within me. When I was a child, I slipped from the house late at night to watch the women holding blazing torches as they tossed the remains of pigs into the earth to make it fertile. The horror seized me. She sacrificed my men. She thrives on my men to nourish her, as pigs nourish the earth. She led me into the house and she sat me at a polished table. She prepared a cup, cheese, barley, honey, brandy, and wine, to which she stirred a drug, singing softly.
You found your way, you've come so far. You washed upon
I took the cup, and with great pleasure, her eyes shone with excitement, she watched me drink, then tapped me with her wand. It had no effect. Nothing happened. She moved away from me. How was it possible? I resisted her drugs. No man had that power. I rushed at her with my sword as if to run her through. She fell to her knees and grasped my feet. You're Odysseus. Hermes told me you would come. He gave me an herb, didn't he? Oh, splendid man, put down your sword. Come into my bed.
One to my shore, a rifle and an blaze. You nurture and Circe's breast to release you from our frantic quest.
I pressed the sword against her. Circe, I do desire to enter into your great bed, but I cannot let you take from me what makes me Odysseus, a man of many wiles to survive and endure. You swear the great oath of the gods that when I am naked in your bed, you won't overwhelm me. But you will increase my desire to live.
Circe will take care of you. End your wanderings at sea. Of this you must believe. I promise you will no longer
She swore the great oath the gods take upon the river Styx. There was thunder, and then stillness. I reached for the hand that she held out to me, and when I touched it, she asked, "What is it you want from me?"
break the soil, plow the earth. How much is a man worth? Release the grief locked in the mind. Free the spirit to unwind.
I collapsed to the great bed. My homecoming. My homecoming. I was forced to the war. I did not want to go. Messengers came to summon me as I plowed my field. I pretended insanity not to go. I sowed the furrows with salt. Palamedes suspected me. He placed my baby son in the furrow. I paid him for that at Troy when I tricked him into a traitor's death. wretched, violent war to bring back a whore who'd abandoned her husband when the goddess Aphrodite inflamed her to run off with a coward prince of Troy, who hid in the women's rooms when the sting of war scratched his cheek. What did we get for it? Ships, men destroyed, slaughtered in battle, and all of our treasures washed into the sea. Troy, finally sacked after 10 years by my trick that got us inside the walls. And I flung Hector's baby son from the wall so there'd be no heir. And Achilles' son murdering old Priam, king of Troy, at a sacred shrine, with his wife Hecuba pleading, begging the gods mercy, and distributing prizes among the troops. My quarrel with Ajax for Achilles' armor. I won the armor in a fair decision. I was not to blame for Ajax's suicide. It was an evil mind which tortured him to kill himself. I fought hard to protect the fallen body of Achilles. I held off the Trojan warriors who would have carried that body off as a prize to Troy, put it on display, mocking us that the gods now favored them, and then humiliating us by putting his armor on display as a sign of their victory in battle, and then to raise a mound over his body and to make him a hero whose spirit they could consult. Ajax held them off more than any of us, but I knew what to say to prove myself winner of the prize. And sailing away at last, and coming to that coastal town and sacking that innocent people, pillaging the houses, driving off the herds, carrying away women, and my men refusing to come back to ship when I begged and I pleaded with them. And the loss of so many of them when the neighboring towns rallied against us and we fled for our lives, taking only what we could hold in our hands. And panicking till the sail caught the winds and carried us to Aeolus Island, where he gifted me a sack that held the winds so we could journey peacefully. And my men, suspecting it was a treasure, they untied it when I slept. The winds rushed out, blew us back to his island. Out from here! This wouldn't happen, but the gods have cursed you. And then we drifted aimlessly to lotus eaters, who, mild and peaceful, fed my men upon the lotus, which made them forget who they were. And we had to carry them by force back to ship. And then we beached on the island opposite the dreaded Cyclops. I am exhausted, worn out by the storms at sea, and spun about. I would have killed myself many times, but the plight of the men who trusted me, I kept on, drained by 10 years of relentless war, wandering the boundless ocean with no guides in the stars, and the unmitigated rage of Poseidon, lord of the sea, that I blinded his son, and Athena, my goddess, my counselor and guide, She abandoned me when I left Troy. We went off to war, promising to return with prizes. The prizes we'd win. The songs they'd sing about us. We would not be forgotten. This is what life was for. She beat me with her wand, struck off my head, my arms and my legs. She hacked my body to pieces, tossing it as an offering into the earth while she sang, and then plowed the earth over me. Pigs ran out from the cage and squealed over my grave.
The way to proceed is to take you apart, wash the pieces, hang them up to dry, blow a fresh wind in the ear, a fresh wind in the eye, dismember, rearrange, new life issue from the change.
When I woke up, she was sitting opposite great bed, braiding her long hair, a young girl in the flush of first love, holding a shaving cup, stirring a lather. She lifted my chin and shaved my beard in the style of the young men of the islands. I looked 10 years younger, as when I left Ithaca for the war. She summoned her servants, young nymphs from the groves and springs of the island, to prepare my bath. They tend the herbs that grow in her garden, and they crush the grapes for wine in season. They lifted me into the great tub carved into the floor at one end of the room, where the water drains into the earth beneath the house. She poured hot and cold water over me, stretched out in that bath. I haven't bathed that way since I left Ithaca for the war. And she poured hot cold water over me. And she scrubbed me with sponges. She ran oil into my body. You'll stay a while and rest. Winter is coming. The season of storms. It's no time to sail the rough seas. Stay as long as you desire and tell me more stories. You can tell me everything. I will listen. She ran her soft hands over my shoulder and brought them together upon my chest. I stood and she wrapped me in fleece. She dressed me in a shirt and tunic she woven, and she led me to a polished table, heaped with baskets of bread, fresh meat and wine. I stared at that meal. I couldn't touch any of it. My body shuddered. She was astonished. There were no drugs in this food. I've been with you in love. Circe, how can I eat when my men, they root as pigs for acorns and nuts in a cage? And the captain they trusted to bring them home fills his belly? She loved hearing that. Stroked my face, my chin. She went outside and she opened the pen, let out the pigs. They came running back into the house. Sleek and unfed, 9-year porkers. She rubbed a salve over them and the bristles fell away. They stood up, shining and handsome, taller than before, younger. And when they saw me, they believed they were back in Ithaca. They rushed towards me and we embraced and we wept, believing that they were now home. But when they saw Circe, they moved back with a shudder. She understood their fear. They'd encountered the uncanny.
Oh, you are those rowdy boys who came to my house with so much noise. Let us have a longer stay. Do not quickly go away.
She tossed a ball into the air. Instinctively, each young man leaped to catch it, knocking aside the fellow beside him. And when it was caught, they jumped upon the winner to take it away by force.
Rough young boys who play games. Is the winner always the same? Or does some other young man take the prize when he can?
The nymphs set baskets of bread, meat, and wine over the tables. She nodded for them to sit.
Rough young men who play a game. To win is the object, have no shame. It takes tricks to beat a friend. Now the game is over. You are closer in the end.
They felt like cherished princes in a great house. And they quietly seated themselves over the soft fleeces the nymphs had laid over the chairs for them. She sent me to bring the rest of my men. They were joyous to see me and eager to feast as guests in her house. We stored the ship in a cove protected from the storms. But Eurylochus argued to rouse the men against me. She'll turn us all into pigs. This is what she wants. And you leading us into this danger like you led us into the Cyclops cave because you wanted a guest gift from a savage who ate the men. We barely escaped with our lives. I could have cut off his head with my sword. He so angered me. But my men, well, they just, they attempted to calm me. Let us take it if he wants. Got the ship. I told him what I thought. Eurylochus, I brought you with me because your father begged. I said, yes, it'd be good for your son to receive honor this way. But you've disgraced yourself time and again. You desire to lead men, but they have no faith in you. You never yet inspired courage or said those words that would arouse a young man to face danger, to overcome it. You're good at casting ill remarks toward others. You excel in rousing a rabble with passion. Embarrassed and ashamed, he couldn't look at me. He could say nothing. Followed quietly behind. We stayed a year at Circe's. Rained and stormed. The sea rose to blot out any distance. My men kept themselves fit, boxing and wrestling. And although the storm raged, we ran foot races around the island. Tossed dice, sat in drafts. My men chose lots to be a Greek or a Trojan, and they waged combats throughout the house, smashing a leg or an arm, cracking a skull, and Circe restored them with an ointment. They implored her to weave their adventures of Troy. They wanted to see themselves. And they would stand beside her, and she wove everything they had done. And they'd point, and they'd laugh, and they'd watch this one run away, and that one hide, and this one call for help from a god. And they saw themselves rushing madly to strike. And they saw themselves tripping over the body of a dead Trojan, hauling off the spear and the shield, running back with it to camp as a prize. Then they would run out to get another. And then cursing when a kinsman was slain, holding the dead body, weeping over the loss of a friend, promising to remember them when they returned home. At night, feasting, they sang many songs remembering Ithaca, and they went to sleep, longing to go home to tell their stories. They begged Circe to look ahead, weave what prizes they would bring home back to Ithaca. They'd lost everything in the storms at sea. They'd nothing to show for their 10 years. They swore they must bring something back. Why go to war if you don't have something to show? Honor, treasure.
What you take away is what you give. Life washes the fingers as water through a sieve. The price you pay for getting home is yours to pay, is yours alone.
The nymphs set soft fleeces throughout the house for their beds, and they chose their sleeping bag, as Achilles had chosen Patroclus, for that bond between men who would care for each other. For the dark night of death stole one away. Every night Circe took me to her bed. I recounted all my adventures at Troy, every violent moment of those 10 years. 10 years of war. How many hours had I slept? She would weave it while I was sleeping, and the next day she'd bring me to look. Had she left anything out? No. It was all there. But it did not please me to see it. My men had great pleasure watching what they had done. And they celebrated each other with a victory song. They wanted to remember. I wanted to forget. She drew the sickness of the violence of war from me as a physician draws pus from a wound. Her love penetrated the marrow of my body. In dreams, she would lead me to a field freshly plowed. I swear to the gods, sometimes it was not a dream. And we embraced each other and folded in the earth. I loved Circe like a young wife. In ecstasy and joy. We had a son. And she told me when I left the island, the son would someday go looking for his father. Why would I leave? I could not go back to Ithaca. I had nothing to show of my glory at Troy. We went off promising to return with treasures. While all the prizes I'd stripped from the Trojan dead, I sent down into Hades. The swords, the shields, the spears, that clever wolfskin and weasel-capped disguise I took from the Trojan runner Dolan, sent to spy on us. And Achilles' great armor that I'd won in that quarrel with Ajax. I vowed all of this to the goddess Athena upon my return to Ithaca. Drowned at sea, swept overboard by storms that flooded our ships, and we watched 10 years of our lives carried away, and we could do nothing to hold any of it. I was no better than the meanest foot soldier who left his blood in the river. Why would I go back to Ithaca and disgrace my wife and son? Let her marry a prince of the island and bring her honor. And stay here with Circe. Have many children. And when the storms were over, I'd cultivate the land. Why, if I were to be a king, the king of this island, Circe, my queen, the storms tripled in rage. The grove of trees outside protected the house. But the hawk who lived in the tree outside screamed, crying over the roof in circles.
The sea is enraged, it pounds upon my floor, it beats upon my walls, it threatens to break down my doors.
There was nowhere for me to hide. Poseidon had found me. The Lord of the sea had erupted from the turbulence, driving 4 black steeds through the waves that crashed upon the shore. He stood in his chariot on the beach, thrusting his 3-pronged trident, taunting, "Who are you? Who are you? Who are you?" No one! I am no one! I am no one! I named myself that way to Poseidon's son, Polyphemus the Cyclops, when I was trapped in his cave. Circe heard all the encounters upon my leaving Troy. That one I had not told her. It disturbed me more than the violence of Troy, where I struck out the life of men I never knew.
Men die on ocean storms. Their bodies never found, unless they wash up on the sacred ground. What have you not spoken? What have you kept? You can only get home when all is
We beached upon an island being blown off course. Sheep and goats abounded wild in the hills, but no one came to hunt them. We took our hunting gear, went after them, brought down plenty to satisfy our desires for meat. In those days I had 12 ships. I'd lost men from each, but there were still many to feed. We washed our hands in the sacred ocean. We cut away the thigh bones wrapped in fat, burnt as an offering to the gods, and then prepared our meal. Leaning against the sides of our ships, feasting, drinking wine. We'd carried sacks of wine away from the town we'd raided on the coast. We watched smoke curling through the trees. We heard the tinkling of goats' bells, and we listened to the bleating of sheep from an island a swimmer's distance from where we beached. When dawn stretched her rosy fingers over the horizon, I called all my men into council. I told them I want to know who lives on that island over there. Look, here are fields of wheat, orchards and vineyards that flourish without tending. What kind of people are these who need not work for what they need? And there is a natural harbor, but there's no ship to trade the coastal town. What kind of people are these? I'm going over only with my men. The rest of you, you pull your ships back, hide it among the trees. He silently oared the narrow strait and drew up in a secluded inlet. I chose 12 of the best men to accompany me. Something told me to bring a sack of wine. Wandering along the beach, we came upon a massive cave on a hill looking towards the sea in a grove of pine trees. A stone enclosure, a wall, flocks in the front yard. It was still. No sounds of birds or insects. We softly approached and we peered inside. Built along the walls were stalls for sheep and goats. The firstlings, the yearlings, and the babies bleating to be nursed. There were great baskets of whey, tubs overflowing with curdled milk to wield mold cheese, and wheels of cheese set on drying racks. No one was home. We entered without invitation. We feasted on cheese and we drank bowls of milk. We took it as our due. My men wanted to lead off as many sheep and goats as they could manage, but I wanted to see the master who lived here. I insisted it was my right to receive a gift. Why, it is the custom of the gods. It is a law of Zeus. Visitors are sent home with gifts. So we sat, eating, drinking, waiting. And when the sun descended and the shadows first appeared over the floor of the cave, the tinkling of goats' bells approached. We heard the master stalling his billy goats and rams outside in that stone enclosure. The ewes and the does, they ran in. And he then entered and sealed the entrance with a huge boulder, sealing the eye of the cave. He was a monstrous man, tall as the mast of a ship. He held in one hand a tree that he pulled up as a walking stick. He flung it to the floor of the cave and made such a racket we ran back, hiding in the recesses. Then he went about his tasks. He set the babies to nurse. He milked the sheep and the goats. He drew the whey into the baskets, poured off the milk into the curdling tubs. Then he took down a wheel of cheese. He sat and he built a small fire to prepare his supper. And it was through the firelight that he saw us in the recesses of the cave. Strangers! What brings you to the Cyclops cave? Uninvited. I see. You drink my milk, you eat my cheese. Did you plan to run off with my sheep and goats? Who are you? Savages who plunder the coastal towns, pirates who take what does not belong to them. I spoke up immediately. The gods have given me that great gift of words, so I knew exactly what to say. Cyclops, we're those great heroes from the war at Troy. Agamemnon, he was the king and commander, and we brought that proud citadel down into the dust. We were on our way home when we were blown off course to our island. Tired and weary of a storm, I thought it best to seek shelter, and so we came upon your cave, but we shall now be going. But before we do, I have to ask you for a gift. The custom of the gods, I mean, it's the law of Zeus. Visitors are sent home with gifts. His laughter threw me against the walls. He grabbed two of my men the way you hold puppies, and he dashed them to the floor of the cave, spilling their brains out. Then he hacked their body to pieces and washed it all down with a bowl of milk. Then he stretched out the length of the cave with a stone for a pillow and fell asleep. I could have killed him with a thrust of my sword into the liver beneath the rib cage. But none of us could move that ponderous stone. When he woke up, he went about his tasks. He set the babies to nurse. He milked the sheep and the goats. He poured the milk into the curdling tubs. Took down a wheel of cheese and more of my men and dashed two of them into death for his breakfast. And he washed them down with a bowl of milk. Then he pulled aside the great stone in the eye of the cave. The ewes and the does ran out. He sealed the entrance. And he whistled for his herds to follow him into the hills. I had not slept, and a god had whispered a plan. On the floor of the cave was the tree that he used as a walking stick. I lopped off a length. I instructed my men to strip the bark while I sharpened one end into a point. And then we carried it to the fire and we turned it around till the point was charred. And then we hid it under a mass of sheep dung along the corner of the cave, and we waited. We heard him returning. Pulled aside the great boulder from the eye of the cave. The ewes and the does, they ran in. And he said to the billy goats and the rams, there'd be a storm that night, and he wanted them inside, warm and sheltered. Then he closed the entrance. And he went about his tasks. Set the babies to nurse, milked the sheep and the goats, took 2 more men and dashed them into death and washed them down with a bowl of milk. Then he stretched out in the cave with a stone for a pillow to go to sleep. But I came towards him, holding in my hand a cup of wine. It was the wine that I had received from the priest of the town we'd raided. I'd honored him, his wife, his daughter, and he gave me wine from his own store, wine that was sacred to a god. It was pure, a heavy syrup with herbs, unmixed with water, toxic. Cyclops, I had intended to offer this to you as a gift for treating me as a guest, who now will come to a cave to honor a butcher. Don't you talk bad of me! My Cyclops is a generous host. I'm just not used to guests. And you've been begging for a gift, begging. I've been thinking, what on I give this man? And now you give me this? No. My mother taught me manners. I can't accept this from a stranger. I have to know who you are first. You have to tell me. What is your name? No one! I am no one! My father, he named me no one! A god must have heard, for there was thunder, as if to acknowledge the truth of what I said. And then I saw it. You could see it. It was there. I watched it happen. As when lightning strikes a tree and a storm uproots it to carry it away. When I said that name, no one, all the glory that I had attained at Troy rushed out of me. Out of some part of me, you could see it. Like a spirit that thinned itself to nothing and was gone. Blown out of me like dust on a road. Cyclops saw it and sighed. I'm sad. Cyclops knows the power of a name I forced you to say when you would keep a secret shame. But truth is a fellow who won't shut up. I believe no one. You came to Troy dreaming of a name, dreaming to be a hero, and it never happened. You, a bandy-legged, knittering, nottering nobody, hoping to be somebody, hoping to pitch yourself against the great heroes. It never happened. A tricksy man would thought twice to enter a stranger's cave. I see you're none such. You would be. It was only a dream and a look. I saw that dream leave you like a lost wish that never had a chance. But I take pity on you. Yes. I shall honor you as all heroes are honored. I shall cut my long hair and I'll sing of your death. I shall grieve. And my neighbors, they'll hear my sorrow. They'll come running to listen. And I shall tell them, he's gone. No one is gone. And now I'm just back to cheese, milk, and mutton. And he seized the cup and he drowned the wine. I held it out a second time, a third, a fourth, and a fifth. And he swayed, and then he slumped to the floor, drunk. A foolish smile oozed over his face. His head fell to one side, his jaw open, gobbets of flesh and wine dribbled over his chin. Quickly, we withdrew the stake from beneath the pile of sheep dung and carried it over to the fire. We twisted it about to that point, almost burst into flames. My men, they helped. They hoisted it above that single eye in his forehead, and we held it there, and a god infused me, and I plunged it down, twisting it about deeper and deeper into the eye socket. Blood gushed, the eyeballs sizzled and cracked, the roots burst. Cyclops screamed and he pulled out the stake. His neighbors, they came rushing to the cave. What is it? What is it? No one has taken my eye. No one has taken away my sight. No one? No one? You wake us for no one? Go back to sleep and shut up. It's a dream you had. Pray to your father Poseidon to give you peace. Cyclops understood we'd use his blindness to escape. And so he pulled aside the boulder from the eye of the cave and sat there to catch us. But I'd already planned the escape. I brought 3 sheep together and I tied them, lashed them. And I tied one man to the belly of the middle sheep. I did this with all the men. And I caught an old woolly ram and I clung to the belly. And there we hung for life, waiting for the morning. And when the light entered the cave, the babies bleated to be nursed, the sheep and the goats ran out, and Cyclops fell to them, believing we would ride them out, never suspecting where we hid. But then he caught the old ram, and he brought it closer to him. Tell me, old fellow, you've been with me all my life. Tell me, please, where is this niddering, noddering? Speak, where is this niddering, noddering? No one who took my eye. And then he let him go. When I was a distance from the cave, I jumped down, untied the sheep, untied my men, and we brought the animals into the ship. Well, the men who were there were terrified, horrified at who was missing. I quickly quieted them so Cyclops wouldn't hear. But once I was in the ship, I couldn't resist. I stood up and I shouted, "Hey, Cyclops! You thought you had no one in your cave, right? You thought you had a niddering, noddering no one. Anyone who comes by and they ask you, what happened to your eye? You tell them, Odysseus, son of Laertes, king of Ithaca, put it out. Odysseus! There was a prophecy Odysseus would come, but I was looking for a man, not a niddering no one." And he hurled a massive boulder which landed at the prow of the ship. It sent a wave that pushed us back to his island, and we had to push off, scramble to get away. But then he fell to his knees with his arms outstretched over the sea, and he prayed, "Father, Poseidon, if you are my father, avenge this injury. Keep this niddering no one away. Never let him get home. Give him nothing but misery. Lose all of his men." And he comes home to a house of terrible tragedy, and he dies a fool's death. Promise me, he dies a fool's death. And he hurled another boulder, which landed at the stern of the ship, which pushed us out to sea. And there was a crack of thunder, followed by silence. Poseidon had heard him, and promised. Telling the story exhausted me. I collapsed over the great bed, grasping the covers, moaning. No one, no one. I lay as an empty sack, as a sail that's lost its wind. The god of life pulled life out of me. All the glory I'd attained in Troy rushed at me as birds fly out of a grove of trees and are gone. I have nothing. That trick to save my life cursed me. I've nothing. I've nothing to bring home. All the prizes I won. The cauldrons, the tripods, the silver bowls. Achilles' great armor that I'd won in that quarrel with Ajax, and he killed himself because he lost it. I vowed all of this to Athena, just swept overboard, washed into the sea. It would have been better that I died at Troy than disgrace my wife and son with no treasures of my glory. I've lost my homecoming. How can I cross the sea? Poseidon is set against me. I blinded his son. He takes his revenge. I gave up the past when I said no one. Cyclops just took everything in the dark cave, but not who I am. No one can ever take away who I am. That old quarrel with Achilles. Do you win through violence or through strategy? He was born to slaughter. A fiery wind nothing can withstand. Murderous to his enemies. A man of infinite might. Equal in rage to Zeus. And yet he could not win us into Troy. He went down before the god that took his life. But my cunning, the skillful mind, the god gave me, my cunning mind, brought the Trojan, the Greek army into Troy through the trick of the wooden horse. And we brought that ancient, glorious citadel into the dust. But his name will always be sung. They will always sing praises of Achilles. Where is my skill? Where is the cunning of my mind to get me home? We had our names at Troy that scattered our enemies. To have no name was to be nothing and no one. Am I to shake off 10 years as a dog shakes off water? Why did I go to Troy to lose my honor? Why did I go if this glory is to be taken from me?
As fire is put out by rain, so does the glory men burn to attain. No one takes glory into the grave. If you want it, go back to Cyclops' cave. There it resounds Poseidon is set against you. Can you cross his ocean to return home? The crossing will be your homecoming. The crossing, the song of your fame. You only lost what you won, not the skill in winning.
Eurylochus approached me. He spoke quietly, not to arouse my anger. He said the men had chosen him to speak for them. Odysseus says he's been good to us. We see the stars, now the storms are gone. The sky is clear, look. The plowman drives his oxen, followed by his 2 dogs. We should be breaking the soil with the plow at our farms. We've been gone a long time. We've nothing to show for our valor and the long years at Troy. We must bring something back. We're gone 10 years. We can raid a town or 2 along the coast. Now we shall be cautious this time, not like the last when we lost everything. No, our exercises have brought back our strength. While we're even younger than before and eager for competition. I warned him. We cannot risk a careless adventure to distract from our homecoming. Talk like a man who's never been to war. It was clear to me now. We'd wandered off our course the day we attacked that coastal town. All our troubles came from that mistake. We never should have sacked those innocent people. Those people prayed and song and danced to a God to bless their life. And we could have prayed to that same God for guidance home. But instead we chose to sack them. The rage of Troy was in us, and we could not shake it out of our bodies or our minds. The frenzy could only be satisfied with more. Zeus in his anger blew us off course. Odysseus, we must bring something back. We've gone 10 years. Eurylochus aroused my anger many times. But he spoke the truth when he said, we followed you to Troy because we trusted you. We wanted honor and glory for ourselves. Now that you're satisfied, we mean nothing. Are we just Circe's swine? I told him that Poseidon would never allow us to cross his sea. He would always whirl us, spin us about till we splinter and drown. Eurylochus astonished me when he said, well, if we drown at sea, the gulls will cry our name over Ithaca. Oh, let us go. I entered Circe's bed that night, and I clasped her about the knees as a suppliant. Great lady, we see the stars now the storms are gone. My men, they point to the constellation of the plowman and his ox, and 2 dogs. They yearn to break the soil at their farms to plan for a harvest they've not celebrated in 10 years. They will not leave without me. I cannot deprive them of their desire to return home. Something tells me all of them will not make it home. I cannot tell them that. I must leave with them. They trust me. Poseidon is set against me, not against my men. Why, they may yet return to Ithaca. And the mountains, the rocky coast.
Returning home, a journey one only makes alone. No man recovers from the loss of life unless it descends into night. What night adventure do you take? What course to follow to remake a soul that wanders so many ways and fought to master endless days? Are you ready to sail from me to under the boundless sea? Wonder your way back home. A journey one only makes alone. You stayed longer than you thought you should. Do not stay longer than you should. For homecoming is the goal you set, and yet how can we find our way home if unguided and alone? No one can attain to immortal fame unless he dies and returns again. Who has done that? Not one I know. Is it possible? Perhaps. You must descend to the realm of night and then return with the morning light. Watch and listen to the dead. Remember what Odysseus will have said. Go into death, return. Become the glory of what you learn. Follow the sun into the depths of the sea, into the dark house of Persephone, and from the darkness of night emerge, restored to
I collapsed beside her bed. Circe, no one sails to the dark grove in the black ship. To enter the house of death, the soul must slip away from the bones. We are no longer among the living. No man has gone there and back but Hercules once, when he came away with the three-headed dog that guards the gate. Am I to die and not yet home? Oh, Circe, weave the pattern for life. Who talks to the dead but in dreams? If not for me, but for the men who trusted, I would bring them home. She placed her hands at the sides of my face. And she said, Would I send you so casually into death when I've held you? I've an herb only the gods know. And she laughed as Hermes had laughed the day I met him in the forest.
What life is there to save? The life you left in Cyclops' cave. You are empty, free from the past. Prepare your journey home at last.
My journey was on the loom, a map you could roll and take with you. Was it always there? She did not sit now to weave it. It had to be there from the beginning. And if it was, I never noticed it. And if I did, I didn't know what it was. The course the sun takes, the course I would follow, sailing further west than her island, till we pass through the ocean stream that binds and circles the earth, there to beach at the grove of dark poplars, not far from the two rivers rush downward to meet. For I would dig a pit for the dark blood of an offering to the gods, the dead, who would drink and tell me. She dressed me in a shirt and sea cloak she'd woven. She clothed herself in a shimmering gown with a belt of brocade and a veil over her head. She went before me to the ship and tethered a ram and a ewe close by for my offering to the dead. I walked among my men, waking each one from his sleep. Up now we go. Circe gives us a good wind for our sails. We take ship now. We brought the ship to the river's edge, launched her into the sunlit breakers. We set up the masts and the seats in order. And my men agreed that whatever they took away from any coastal town they raided, they would share, but they had been companions. I said nothing about that. Eurylochus knew my thoughts, but he had not told them. I led aboard the ram and the ewe, and they wondered what it was for. It was then that I told them they were not going to Ithaca, that Nurse Circe was sending them into death before they could return home. They tore their hair! They fell over their oars! They pounded, they couldn't believe what I had told them, and they shouted, "We lost everything at sea! We have nothing to bring home, and now we're being punished, sent into death! We went to Troy to die for glory on the plain of honor and war. We could have stayed home and died in bed. Well, we're no better than Circe's swine. And will you stay with us there in death? Will you leave us there? Or you will leave us, naked men, stripped of their armor?" I shook them. I shouted. I could have gone there alone. But what would you say? Has he forgotten us? Has he forgotten his promise to bring us home? Listen, listen, listen. In that house of death is Tiresias. He alone knows what is seen and unseen. He can tell us what we must do to get home, what we must do to make sure our homecoming. Circe looked ahead. She told you the prizes that awaited you, promised what you would bring back. We know all men do not have the same luck, and you agreed to share because you've been companions. If you have fear, stay in the ship when we're there. It is enough to have made the journey. No man makes one living. Would you rather I had gone by myself? Would you rather I'd left you and then you woke up, and you cursed and you screamed? We've been together 10 and more years. The fresh wind lifted our sails. And as the sun descended and the roads of the world darkened, we made our way through the ocean stream that binds and circles the earth. We beached our craft by the grove of dark poplars, and we found our way to where the two rivers rushed downward and meet. There at that spot, Eurylochus and Perimedes held the ram and the ewe, while I dug a pit the length and breadth of an arm, pouring libations of milk and honey, mellow wine and water sprinkled with barley, vowing to all the dead, to the shiftless, aimless spirits of the ghost, that when I returned to Ithaca, I would slaughter a heifer in my halls. I would heap a pile with treasure, and to Tiresias alone, apart from the rest, I'd offer a sleek black ram, the pride of my herd. I turned my head away from the house of death, and I cut the throats for the blood to pour into the pit. Out of darkness, uttering unearthly cries, thousands of ghosts rushed to the pit. Blanched with terror, I ordered Perimedes and Eurylochus to flay the sheep, burn them both with prayers to Persephone and the god of the dead. And it was then I ate the herb Circe gave me. And this happened. I watched it all as a dream that stands by your bed at night. My inner counsel told me to swing the sword above the pit, and the ghost fell listless. The first to come was Elpenor, a companion whom I dearly loved. Not too bright, but good. A lad of 15 when he left Ithaca to sail with me to Troy. He had an accident when we left the house, and there'd been no time to bury him, but left him in Circe's house unwept. Elpenor, why, you've come to this house of darkness faster on foot than I in my black ship. Not buried yet. He retained the memory of speech, and he told me what happened. Cursed of an angry god and too much wine. I went to sleep on the roof of Circe's house, because it was much cooler. Never thought to climb back down the ladder. Walked off the roof edge, broke my neck. I lost my homecoming. What gain was there in my going to Troy? When you take ship again at Circe's, you do not forget me. If you do, the gods will curse you. A man whose luck ran out. Burn me in full armor on a rushing headland into the sea. Plant my white bones. Set a mound of stones, and in the center you plant the oar that I swung with my mates when I rode among the living. But when I'm burned, I will never speak again. I shall do this for you, Elpenor. This shall be your homecoming. Sailors who passed Circe's island, they would see that mound and that oar on the headland rushing into the sea. They would know that a hero of the war was buried here. And and they could consult his spirit. We sat together, weeping over the loss of our companions and remembering the years behind. Odysseus came, bearing the golden staff of his authority. For while he lived, though he was blind, he could see what only the fates knew and spoke what was necessary. He alone could speak. He who shakes the earth and troubles the sea still rages with anger. You blinded his son. It'll be a long time before he's appeased. You'll pass the island where the sisters sing for the men to come and join them. You pass them by. You beach on the island where Helios, the god of the sun, raises his fat flocks and herds. Pass them by. Do not touch them. Set your mind on returning home. But if you touch them, your ship blasted to pieces. Your men, they will not listen, flung out to drown, and you barely escaping with your life. A broken man brought home in a stranger's ship to a household where arrogant men court your noble wife and devour your goods. You'll pay them for this in blood, and once more you'll set forth with your well-played oar till you come to a country who knows nothing of the sea, and you'll know you're there, for you'll meet a man on the road who will call that weight on your shoulder a fan to winnow grain. There, heap a mound, plant the oar, sacrifice a bull, an oar, and an ox to Poseidon, returning home, offering priceless treasures to the deathless gods. And in old age, all your men around you, a quiet, peaceful death will steal over you far away from the sea. Poseidon, he will be appeased finally. Odysseus, one more thing. I see my mother here. She's among all the spirits. She cannot bear to look at me. Her own son. What must I do for her to recognize me? Whoever you let approach and drink will speak truth. Those you refuse will turn and fade away. And he strode into the darkness. My mother was close by the pit. I lifted the sword. She fell to her knees and she drank. She wailed in grief. Instantly she knew me. I rushed toward her, desirous to hold her. 3 times I rushed toward her, and she passed through my fingers like smoke, gone like a dream. Many shades wandered the shadowy grove. Heroes brought down to Troy, bloody in their armor. Listless spirits who have no purpose, who was taken from them. And they want to hear lost souls who once had claim to life. I cannot forget what Achilles said when he approached me and spoke. We'd wept at his death. We'd cut our long hair. We composed undying songs of praise. My songs that will be sung forever. When the white bones were in the ashes, we set them in a golden amphora his mother brought, and we placed there the bones of his companion Patroclus, for they were one soul. We held funeral games, and we placed the amphora at the turning point chariot race, the marker where the horses turn to bring the drivers back. For it means when we race towards life, we return as living heroes. Achilles, who blazed for honor, ancestors. His name will ever be evoked. He burned for death in war as the highest praise and value of life. For without the praise of one's glory, what value is there in life? He said, I cannot forget what he said. I see him before me, the hair just rises on my back. He said, I'd rather be a slave and break the soil with my hands to breathe the fresh air of life than a king of heroes among the listless dead. Young and old drank and wailed their grief. The shade of Ajax kept his distance, still ranting that he had been cheated of Achilles' armor. I wanted to console him. What could I say? Ajax, none of us could equal you in war. When Achilles was slain, Zeus and the angry gods, they were sent against us. It's they who brought this great grief upon you. Ajax, listen, we cut our hair. We composed undying songs of praise for you. Ajax, those who come to your tomb, those who remember you. What will you give them, Ajax? You'll only give them sorrow and grief. But he had no thought for those who would come to him. My words had no consolation. And he raged bewildered as he had that night. And he killed himself with the dishonor that stole his life. I wanted to see those who had died in an older epoch, but then I panicked that Persephone, she might send out from death the staring face of snakehead Medusa, whose glance would turn us into stone. Rushed back into the ship, ordered we cast the cables. We set to the oars, and a strong tide pushed us out of the ocean stream into the vast expanse of the sea, where our rowing and a strong tide wind pushed us back to Circe's island. But the mariner who knew the stars, he exclaimed, Odysseus, a wonder. Circe's island was far west when we followed the course of the sun. And now we were turned out of the ocean stream, but her island is east. It's east where the sun rises. We brought the body of Elpenor from Circe's house and burned him on a headland looking out into the sea in full armor. We planted the white bones and we raised a mound of stones, and in the center the oar that he swung with his mates when he rode among the living. Circe came down to the house and she fed the men. And while they were sleeping, she questioned me of my visit to the dead. And knowing what yet awaited me, she prepared me for my journey from her island. Then she turned and was gone. She gave us the best companion, a strong wind that filled our sails. And I, knowing what awaited me and my men, kept to myself how best to prepare them till the time came.